It's a joke! Alpha Corin's voice echoed through the sprawling hall, power and malice lacing every word. Lyra stood frozen, heart thundering in her chest as she bore witness to the unusual scene before her. The mocking glances of the lichens surrounding her felt like a fog creeping into her mind, but she squared her shoulders. She wouldn't let fear creep in, even as her father's gesture sent ripples of outrage through her very being. A betrothal to my loyal beta, Elias? Why not offer him my daughter? I'm sure he'll find her amusing, he continued, laughter bubbling up from the crowd. Lyra's throat constricted. They didn't know. They couldn't understand the strength lying within her, hidden beneath layers of uncertainty and adjustment to a world that valued only the capable. She opened her mouth to protest, but the words evaporated before they could pass her lips. Instead, her gaze locked onto Elias, who stood at the edge, brow furrowed and jaw set with an intensity that forced her heart to flutter. He didn't choose power or cruelty. He chose silence, the quiet strength of a beta tied to his alpha's whims. Wait, before the next revelation unfolds. If this story has already captured your heart, let us know where you're following from. To ensure you don't miss unexpected twists, emotional reconciliations, or new beginnings, subscribe and stay connected. Now, back to the story. The crowd was abuzz, filled with murmurs of mockery and disbelief. Lyra sensed their scorn, their pitiless disregard for her feelings. What good was her heritage, her lineage as the daughter of a powerful alpha, when her own strength was denied? But her father's laughter was a blade, sharp and unforgiving, the reigning monarch reveling in a power play that revolved around her very existence. Corin's scornful eyes scanned the onlookers, challenging anyone to laugh at the absurdity of it all. "You'll keep her in check, won't you, Elias?" he taunted, mocking the very notion that the beta would refuse to comply. Laughter erupted, followed by a forced cheer, driven by tradition yet tinged with malice. Elias didn't dare meet Lyra's gaze, and that alone was enough to send anguish slicing through her heart. She had watched him with admiration and yearning for years, the way he served, unwaveringly loyal and steadfast. But beneath that collar of servitude, she sensed a yearning buried deep, a desire for something beyond the strict hierarchy of their world. And now, with the weight of her father's absurd decree looming over them, she felt the desperate need to claw her way out into the light. Yet, helplessness clouded her resolve. How could she confront Elias about her secret, her inability to shift? The thought paralyzed her, even as her skin prickled with the weight of transformation that should have coursed through her body. "The beta has offered to take responsibility for your care, Lyra," Corin declared, his tone softer but layered with manipulative authority. "You'll learn from him, understand your place, and perhaps, in time, you will evolve. Or at least entertain us," he finished with a snicker. With a trembling breath, Lyra steeled herself. This was not just a joke, it was a smothering chain around her neck. Elias shifted, torn between the respect for his alpha and the urgent need to push back against the absurdity of the arrangement. Yet the tension between them crackled with unspoken questions. Would this be a joke that bound them together, or one that forever separated the beta from the alpha's daughter? As the pack's laughter echoed through the room, Lyra heard it as a distant sound, fading in and out, overshadowed by the realization that she stood at a precipice. This was more than a mere joke. It was the spark threatening to ignite a smoldering fire of rebellion against the very traditions that sought to consume her. Elias finally looked at her, a storm brewing within the depths of his hazel eyes. He hesitated, every ounce of loyalty tugging him down. I won't be a plaything, your father's folly, he declared, but his words, though firm, teetered on vulnerability. I don't need you to take care of me, she whispered, the rebellion resonating despite the pang of self-consciousness. You don't know me. For a heartbeat, she thought he might challenge the prevailing notions, might surprise her with a display of strength. Instead, he looked away, shoulders slumping with resignation, a beta bound to the will of an unrelenting alpha. Then perhaps you should learn to shift, he retorted softly, a scornful resignation weighing on each syllable. Perhaps that's what your father truly wants. Silence enveloped them as the laughter of their kin rose and fell around them like waves crashing on an unforgiving shore. She wanted to scream, unleash all the frustration pent up by years of unfulfilled potential. Would there ever be a time where she could show the strength that lay paused just beneath her skin, waiting for the right moment to break free? The very thought made her ache. The evening devolved into formalities, and as Corin entertained their guests, casually dismissing Lyra's dissent with flippant remarks, she found herself distanced from the laughter she once cherished. It felt like a different lifetime when she felt a sense of belonging. Now she was a puppet, strung along by her father's desire to show power in his jest, a daughter trapped within a legacy tailored to fit a mold she would never fill. Elias, she finally called, her voice slicing through the noise, desperation weaving through her tone. Can't you see this is insanity? You are not my keeper. A long moment passed, thick with unspoken words and veiled intentions, before he turned to meet her gaze. You are the Alpha's daughter. What choice do we have? His eyes bore the weight of his own conflict, and within that moment, Lyra realized the threads of their fates were intertwined beyond her comprehension. I will determine my own fate, she replied fiercely, her heart ablaze with defiance. And if it is humor that binds us, then let us bring this jest to an end, one way or another. A flicker of admiration sparked in his expression, just as a flicker of disquiet followed. In a world dictated by status, power, and tradition, Elias loomed heavy like a storm cloud over her rebellion. Would she fall into the depths of despair and silence, or would she claw her way through to something greater? Then we'll face it together, Lyra, he whispered, a promise and a challenge wrapped in one. As the night wore on, tensions unresolved and reality shifting underneath them, Lyra realized her heart thrummed with a fear she had never embraced, and an unfamiliar affinity for the man who had been thrust into her life by her father's capricious joke. Two starkly different souls, and still they found the echoes of a hidden truth resonating in the depths of their bond. This game was far too serious to be left in jest. Elias found himself standing in the middle of the grand hall, adorned with ethereal decorations, the moonlight filtering through the stained glass and casting colorful shadows across the marble floor. Yet beneath the festive air, the atmosphere felt charged with an undercurrent of unrest, a brewing storm of emotions both spoken and unuttered. The laughter and revelry surrounding the Alpha King stung sharper than any blade, and Elias felt the weight of everyone's expectations crashing down on him. Lyra moved through the throng of guests, a figure of poise amid chaos, feigning indifference to the mockery trailing them. His heart thudded painfully in his chest as he realized the impossible truth. She was more than just the Alpha's daughter. She was a woman who yearned for freedom, struggling against the confines of tradition. "Elias," she beseeched suddenly, drawing him away from his spiraling thoughts. "You've known me for years. You know that I'm not just a pawn to be moved across your father's chessboard." Her voice trembled slightly, but was laced with conviction, her blue eyes blazing with fire. "I know who you are, Lyra," he replied, the weight of his own frustration spilling over. "But it doesn't change what you are in this world." He gestured wildly, his voice drowned for a moment by the gaudy laughter of the pack. "You're the Alpha's daughter, and he's made a joke at your expense. There's nothing we can do about it." But she stepped closer, stripping away the layers of facade that had masked their interactions for so long, revealing the vulnerable spark beneath. "You think this makes me weak?" she scoffed, meeting his gaze with unyielding intensity. "You think I'm content to be viewed as an object of mockery rather than someone with real strength? Wait until you see what lies beneath the surface." His breath hitched, adrenaline mingling with frustration. It wasn't just her words that left him reeling. It was the possibilities swarming in his mind. He had always respected her tenacity from a distance, admiring the daughter of the Alpha who sought to rebel against what was expected of her. But those glimmers of admiration ran parallel to a deep-seated fear. Her rebellion could unleash chaos, and he knew the consequences of defiance in a world weighed down by its own tradition. "Lyra, this is dangerous," he insisted, each word heavy with concern. "You have to let me protect you. This joke, your father, they're not accidents. They are part of a game we hardly understand." A flicker of sorrow crossed her face, quickly masked by determination. "And you'll let your own wishes be trampled for the sake of the past?" The challenge hung between them, electrifying the air, urging every unspoken feeling into the light. He wanted to be honest, to confess how her vibrant spirit made him question every choice he'd ever made, how longing wove its way through the bonds of duty he had accepted for too long. But Elias kept his mouth shut, letting the weight of family loyalty and duty suffocate his heart. The music shifted, the mood intensified, and Lyra smiled as if she had found the strongest weapon in her arsenal. With each passing moment, Elias found himself torn, swelling emotional stakes pulling him closer to the center of this storm, a tempest filled with passion, vulnerability, and fear. "Let's make our own rules, Elias," she continued, voice unwavering yet softer. "This can be more than just a cruel joke. We can rewrite the narrative." The defiance in her words surged through him, resonating with the quiet flame of rebellion he had kept hidden for far too long. "And become a target for your father's wrath?" He choked on the memories of punishment dealt to rebel souls in their world. "Lyra, I won't let you risk your life for pride." "Pride?" she echoed, eyes narrowing softly. "How about the pride of my own autonomy? I refuse to live as a mere trophy." Elias's chest tightened. She was a force of nature, a tempest challenging the very foundations of what her father had built. Could he come to think of her battle as worthy? "And what if your father discovers your secret?" he asked quietly, the weight of her unshiftability hanging heavy. "I'll figure that out. That's the least of my concerns." The fire in her gaze flared, illuminating the depths of her soul. "Do you ever wonder if we could be more than mere figures in this game?" For a heartbeat, he hesitated, the depth of her desire threatening to breach the walls he had built, shelters of tradition and loyalty reinforced by unyielding norms. Yet, the quiet conviction in her voice sparked something deep within him that had long been dormant. What if they could challenge the expectations placed upon them? "What do you want from me, Lyra?" he asked softly, knowing that the weight of his own feelings was spiraling dangerously close to the surface. "To stand by my side, to defy anyone who dares to belittle me or reduce my worth," she proclaimed, barking with laughter but urging the seriousness to be acknowledged. "There's no separation, just you and me against the world." Elias shook his head, even as his pulse quickened. But if we defy the norms, we become targets. Our actions will have consequences we can't fathom. Your father is powerful and ruthless. He might not take kindly to your rebellion. That's not a shame. It's a chance, she pressed, voice steady against the rising tide of uncertainty. I've admired your strength all these years, hiding in your shadow. It's time we both step into what we are meant to be, together. And there it was, the core of their conflict, a combination of fear and longing rooted abruptly beneath the surface. Admirer, he echoed, heart racing. Lyra, you've always had a strength I never did. Then why not claim it? She whispered, vulnerability seeping through her bravado. The pain we carry, the masks we wear, they're not the truth. We both know that. Something shifted in the way he saw her, no longer just the alpha's daughter pressed into a position of ridicule, but a woman with an indomitable spirit fighting for her right to exist beyond her title. Elias felt the chains of duty loosen ever so slightly, tantalizing him with an idea long considered forbidden. "What if we try?" he suggested, testing the waters, heart racing as her eyes flickered wide, filled with wonder and hope. Her smile ignited something in his soul. Together? Yes. It felt like surrender, a breath finally released. But if we do this, we cannot go back. We can't let fear turn us back into the shadows. Call it courage then, Elias. Together, we can confront whatever comes our way. With an adrenaline-fueled connection blossoming between them, they turned as one, determined to embrace the chaos that awaited. Yet, as Lyra's fingers brushed against his, a vision of possibility flickered to life, stoked by the undeniable recognition that they were both seekers of truth in a world trying its hardest to suppress it. The celebration raged around them, laughter echoed, but to Elias it felt distant, an illusion crafted of chains that no longer bound them. By standing together, they could redefine their destinies, carving out a place where love and power intertwined. And if, perchance, they stumbled along the way, they'd stumble together. But fate was a fickle mistress, and lurking just underneath their newfound hope were challenges yet unseen. Whispers, rivalries, and threats from within the pack began to swirl with ominous insistence as they contemplated their next moves. The strength they had conjured stood precariously tethered to the will of an external force that neither had yet learned how to navigate. In this journey, with consequences lurking in the shadows, they were determined to disrupt the game before it took its toll. Lyra reached for him as they stepped away from the suffocating hall, a quiet promise enveloping the air between them, drawing them back toward the true potential ignited by their bond. Together, they would learn to shift their realities, the adventure of two unlikely souls determined to unveil the power hidden within. As Elias and Lyra stepped into the crisp night air, an ephemeral hush enveloped them, shrouded by the shadows of the surrounding trees. The haunting glow of the moon illuminated their path, casting silvery streaks on the ground, and for the first time the world felt separate from the constraints of the hall behind them. Together they dared to hope, two souls tethered by unyielding threads of ambition and fear. In that moment of shared silence, their connection took root, like vines creeping along the ancient trunks of the trees that encased them. Lyra peered at the ground, contemplating, as if she were contemplating the very fabric of her identity woven into the love left behind by every ancestor. "Do you think they will ever understand?" she asked softly, vulnerability lacing her voice. "What we're trying to do?" Elias shrugged, his heart heavy with doubt. "Maybe," he replied, twisting the words in his mouth, searching for a thread of hope amidst the gibbering uncertainty. "But right now, we need to focus on you, what you want and how to protect you." A fragile smile graced her lips, delicate as the moonlight. What I want is to be free to explore who I really am, but your belief in my worth carries more weight than the expectations of a pack that misunderstands me." Each word resonated deep within him, vibrating through the marrow of his bones. She yearned for freedom, and in that yearning he found echoes of his suppressed desires. "And your freedom is tied to your ability to shift," he ventured, his tone cautious but undeniably curious. "Maybe," she acknowledged, her brow furrowing, a hint of defiance sharpening suddenly in her gaze. "But it's more than that. Shifting is just part of the illusion, a facade perpetuated by this world. Sometimes strength lies in embracing our true selves. The stories of our lives need not be dictated by our parents or our packs." The flicker of her passion ignited a warmth in him. "You're right. Your power lies within you, whether you shift or not," he replied, sensing the resolve of his voice as it solidified. "But what if your father finds out? What if others see your vulnerability as a threat?" Her face hardened with determination. "Let them. If I can embrace my truth, however it manifests, they cannot use me as a mere pawn." Elias felt the gravity of her challenge. "And if they attack you? I will not back down." Her words unleashed a torrent of feelings within him, the kind he had kept corralled for fear of exposing his heart. Fury, admiration, and longing intertwined into one, feeding his need to protect her all the more fiercely. Lyra's steadfastness reminded him of the fables that spoke of brave heroes and fearless figures who refused to bend to the wicked whims of their lineage. Yet here she stood, the embodiment of both power and softness, capable of evoking passion he had never known could exist within him. As they crossed the barrier of the clearing, the forest's embrace whispered to them, beckoning their defiance against the ties that sought to bind them. The lingering melodies of the pack receded, and the night rolled forward, heavy with possibilities. "Okay," he finally affirmed, resolute. "Let's find a way for you to master your abilities, even if it's beyond mere transformation." A spark ignited in her eyes, illuminating the fiery determination within her. "We need to explore the depths of my spirit and unlock truths that lie deep within. But I can't do it alone, Elias." His heart raced, even as fear coursed through his veins. "So we train together?" "Yes," she said, the warmth of her words wrapping around him like a soft blanket. "We can break the cycle. Together." An electrifying rush pulsed between them, an urgency that wound itself tighter as they gazed at one another. A pact formed in silence, threaded with their commitment to forge their destinies. They wandered deeper through the night, keeping their footsteps silenced by the forest floor wrapped in the cool embrace of fallen leaves. The whispering breeze carried hints of flower petals strewn in the cold night, a reminder of the magic that lurked just beyond the household walls, the magic they were about to awaken. Days turned into weeks, the glow of the moon acting as witness to their clandestine journey. Each night they met away from prying eyes. The pulse of the world around them began to resonate harmoniously with their dreams, a yearning for independence swirling and igniting their training sessions. They shared every challenge, every breakthrough, and every vulnerability that threatened to tear them apart. Elias focused on helping her understand that true power lay not just in transformation itself, but in the thoughts and emotions that shaped her. If you can harness the force within you, then shifting will only be an extension of that power. He guided gently but passionately. You must learn to connect to your inner wolf without fear, to embrace the duality of your existence. Lyra listened closely, her fierce spirit ignited with each lesson. The forest lit with the intensity of their training, each moment stretching the boundaries of her self-discovery. Together they practiced. She channeled her instincts alongside the memories of the moonlit nights of her childhood, the rhythmic howls of her heritage echoing through her being, but guiding her to discover who she truly was. But as they delved deeper, the world beyond the trees remained unforgiving. Whispers echoed around their secret, rivals turning in the winds to catch scent of what the Alpha King's daughter had been hiding. The tension between Lyra's determination and the lurking threats soon became palpable, casting a dark shadow over their newfound hope. One fateful evening, as the harvest moon hung high above the treetops, Lyra could feel the air thicken around her like a veil, almost tangible in its malevolence. "Elias?" she murmured, a shiver of apprehension dancing down her spine. "I have this feeling." Elias paused mid-movement, his eyes flickering from the patience of their moonlit training to the concern etched in her features. "What is it?" She glanced toward the distant hills where the pack often gathered, where shadows danced like unseen specters. "It's as if something is shifting. I fear they might find out about me." Elias stepped closer, instinctively bridging the gap, creating an undeniable barrier against the encroaching dread. "They won't," he asserted firmly, yet uncertainty dripped from his words. "No one will learn of your secret, not while I am here." She smiled softly, but the unease still lingered in her eyes. "You've been incredible, Elias, never doubt it. But there is power within me that I've yet to unlock, and if I remain a mere specter, how will I ever rise against the chains? It's not about knowledge alone. You must train your spirit to receive your potential." He lifted her chin, his fingers grazing her jaw. "You have everything it takes." The tenderness between them swelled like the tides shifting in the ocean, warmth racing through them as a silver light surged around. It illuminated the unseen threads binding their souls, both desperate and hopeful, urging them forward. "Then, tonight, I will let go," she declared, fierceness granting her the courage needed. "I will embrace the power that is mine, whether or not it manifests as a shift. For once, I will stand in my own light." Lyra, but she broke away, emotions blazing like wildfire in the night, her fierce independence taking shape. Determination coursed through her veins as she stepped into the clearing, moonlight illuminating the contours of her spirit. "Let me show you what I can give!" With her breath caught in her throat, she channeled whatever essence lay slumbering within, digging deep into the emotional labyrinth that defined her. As she breathed into the universe, she felt the tethering of a powerful connection pulse through her being, weaving threads of strength, strength unmarred by the expectations of her lineage. And as the night shrouded her, the shadows faded, illuminating the very power of everything she had sought. Light thrummed through her, radiating along her skin like embers flaring into existence. Elias felt his heart race, desire and fear mixing in every breath as he witnessed the transformation happening before him. Yet this was not a shift into wolf form, but something far more stunning. Her essence illuminating raw power forged from belief and defiance that transcended beyond simplistic transformation. "Lyra!" he called, awe-stricken, stepping forward, but halted by the sight unfolding. "You are." She opened her eyes, and for an instant the universe shimmered in a tapestry of colors, the very essence of her rebirth. In that moment, the brilliant hues enveloped her, melding with the sacred bonds of nature, forging something magnificent and incomprehensible. With power glowing fiercely, she extended her arms, clutching on to the very creation of her existence. "Elias, this is my truth. This is my voice." As their surroundings pulsed with light, all doubts melted into the ether, and a new kind of magic emerged, one that could not only challenge her father, but perhaps also their fated path. The heart of the forest embraced her energy, whispering sweetness through the very leaves themselves, offering hope to both the Beta and the Alpha's daughter, bound in a search for belonging. But with newfound capabilities rose the imminent fear of exposure, and Elias couldn't ignore the dangerously eager eyes that lurked beyond the trees. Even as their bond solidified, shadows crept ever closer, began whispering of rivalries that craved to exploit her truth. "We can't stay here," he warned, urgency igniting in his voice. "The pack might sense it. This power, it may attract attention." Yet Lyra stood, resolute and determined, the night wind ruffling her hair like the goodbyes she had thought she would never say. "Then we need to harness it, Elias, a chance for me to be both the embodiment and the master of my own narrative." But as they retreated back to the depths of the forest, their connection woven deeper than moments before, the seeds of conflict lingered in the air like heavy incense, asking questions neither could yet fathom. The power sparked within her held monumental promise, but its awakening came with consequences that now loomed larger than life, a storm that would ripple far beyond their attempts at autonomy. And unleashing themselves into the unknown was not without severe risk. The chains binding them could either serve to elevate their newfound power or consume them entirely. With heavy hearts, they began discussions about the journey ahead, perilous paths, and the reality they would soon confront. Would they find strength or lead to their own demise, as revelations and heartbreak encroach on every encounter? Only time would unveil the truth, the price they had to pay for freedom, the courage it took to defy the eternal cycles, and the lengths they would go to validate their love. Together, they embarked into a world framed by their parents' expectations, clashing traditions, and the tireless whispers of love that begged to be recognized, where the lines separating pleasure and pain blurred, and the stakes had never felt greater. With their bond anchored in defiance, it now carried the weight of their destinies intertwined, a union charged with both vigor and sacrifice, poised to challenge the forces that bound them. Would this night mark the dawn of liberation or the beginning of their undoing? In the eyes of fate, exhilaration erupted as the darkness ahead beckoned them forward, and so began the unfolding of their journey, the path of every hero and every lover, forever chasing the horizon while unearthing brilliant truths within. Their narrative shaped by the rebellion within, defying the long-cherished rule of a world that sought to quell the heart's unquenchable fire. All that remained was to dare to dream under the moon-soaked skies, to rewrite the script, no longer merely characters within a story penned by those who could not know the power pulsing just beneath their skin. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a kaleidoscope of colors across the sky, a chill swept through the air, hinting at the promise of dusk. It was on this night that Elias found himself with his back against the cool bark of an ancient tree, heart racing as he caught his breath. But amidst the shadows and the fading light, he felt an undercurrent of something far more potent than mere physical exertion. "Lyra," he called out, his voice barely a whisper, yet it hung in the air charged with urgency. The Alpha King's daughter emerged from the thicket, her wild hair illuminating a path of moonlight around her. She looked fierce and beautiful, radiating an otherworldly power that Elias couldn't quite comprehend. The training sessions had awakened something within her, a strength deeply rooted in her indomitable spirit. "Tonight, I'll show you the truth of my power," she declared, eyes shimmering with determination. She stepped closer, and a wave of unfiltered energy crackled between them, sending shivers down Elias's spine. It was palpable, a force that spoke not just of her abilities, but of their connection, forged in the fires of defiance against the world that sought to bind her. He took a step forward, heart racing with uncertainty and exhilaration. "Are you ready for this? Once we delve into this, there's no turning back." Lyra's laughter danced through the air, intoxicating and free-spirited, a sound that both melted and strengthened him. "You think I'd back down now, after everything?" A flicker of mischief sparkled in her gaze, transforming her defiance into something almost tangible. "Then let's embrace this," he urged, desire ignited in his chest, urging him to guide her deeper into the forest, away from prying eyes. "Together, we can unravel the very fabric of our predestined roles." As they ventured deep into the heart of the woods, enveloped by the whispers of ancient trees, the air trembled with anticipation. In that sacred space, free of judgment and ridicule, Lyra took a deep breath, grounding herself before leaning into the very essence of what she sought to reveal. With a gentle nudge from Elias, she closed her eyes, envisioning the connection to her wolf that had remained dormant for so long. Memories flooded her. Moonlit nights spent listening to howls, feeling the thrum of her lineage pulse within her veins. Her heart raced with each beat, echoing a truth she yearned to unleash. "Elias," she breathed, voice laced with fervor, "I need you to believe in me." "I've always believed in you," he promised, stepping closer, anchoring their bond as if it were a tether securing her to the grounding forces of the earth. Opening herself to the cosmos, Lyra felt the weight of her ancestors gather, standing beside her like silent guardians. The power within her surged, weaving vibrant threads of energy dancing just beneath her skin. She began to feel the edges of her essence stretching, an exhilarating rush igniting every nerve as she embraced her true nature. With a mighty exhale, she opened her eyes, and the forest held its breath. A profound stillness blanketed the air as she felt warmth envelop her, an aura of brilliance spilling from her very core. Glimmers of soft light swirled around her, and for a moment, Elias held his breath at the beauty of the awakening before him. This was unlike anything he had ever witnessed, the glow illuminating her like a goddess emerging from the shadows, fierce and unstoppable. "Let's see what lies beyond," she declared, with an inferno flickering in her eyes, emotion rippling through her voice. In that moment, Elias realized they stood on the brink of a monumental shift, not only for herself, but for both of them. She wasn't just the daughter of an alpha. She was a force that could break free from shackles, maddeningly beautiful and profoundly powerful, yet fragile in her vulnerability. "Show me, Lyra," his voice steadied, reverberating with love and trust. "Show me your truth." And with that, she let go. The transformation rippled through her, a golden light flaring as it burst from her form, swirling like wildfire against the dark bark of the trees surrounding them. A glimmer, a shift that stirred the very air. Then suddenly, her human shape morphed into something ethereal. Elias watched in awe as her spirit transcended the boundaries of flesh, intertwining with the wild rhythm of the forest. The beauty left him breathless. A magnificent wolf, luxurious and powerful, roamed forth, her fur a cascade of glinting silver wrapping around powerful muscles, keen eyes glinting with intelligence. Yet it was more than just transformation. This was her true self, released from the chains of expectation. And in that moment, amidst the transformation, Elias felt the stirrings of his own energy unfurl. The connection between them deepened, resonating through every fiber of his being. He stepped closer to the embodiment of her spirit, feeling the raw power radiating around them, enveloping them in the intensity of their bond, forged from desire and conflict. With a howl that echoed through the cosmos, Lyra beckoned him, inviting him to join her in this newfound dance of liberation. "Elias, come with me." He felt an insatiable longing within, a fierce urge to channel this energy coursing through him. For the first time, he wanted to embody everything he held inside, all the amorphous dreams of independence that had eluded him. "Let's go," Elias responded, stepping into the luminous circle of her essence and allowing the shift to overtake him. A surge ran through him, a melding of wild abandon and pure magic, an essence unleashed into the night. The moonlight bathed them both, transforming the boundaries of their identities into something beautifully intertwined. As he embraced the power within, he felt electricity dance along his spine with every pulsating leap, guiding them through the wilderness, the very heart of their existence. Together, they darted through the trees, embodying primal freedom, intertwining pathways, weaving in and out of the shadows, learning through each instinctual leap. It felt like they could conquer the world, leaving behind a trail of luminous promises and untamed raw vitality. Yet, with every high note of freedom came the ominous tide, rivalries brewing just beyond the curtain of their joyous awakening. From afar, a pair of eyes lingered, hidden yet strikingly watchful. The Alpha King had his steely gaze fixed upon the shape-shifting energy flooding through the darkness of night, and the laughter of those who mocked now resounded like battle cries hungry for retribution. Moments later, a rustling threatened their sanctuary, a reminder that reckoning awaited in the wings. Higher up in the pack, their rivals, emboldened by envy and malice, dared to take action. And as the moon reached its zenith, its light mingled with the very air around them, a harbinger of the storm that was yet to come. But in that single moment of exhilaration, they realized this would not merely be their fight. It would be born from the strength of their union as warriors destined to carve their legacy together, come what may. "What do we do now?" Lyra asked, breathless in both her wolf and human form, as they shared a knowing gaze amid the treetops, their auras intertwined under the waning moonlight. Elias swallowed hard, adrenaline coursing through him. "Now we prepare to confront the realities ahead." The reality of their connection pulsed between them, and as he interlaced his fingers with hers, their hearts thrummed with an unyielding truth. Their spirits were bound by a shared fate that transcended bloodlines and titles, fighting together against whatever forces conspire to bring ruin upon them. In that ethereal space, while danger loomed just beyond their shimmering haven, they stood resolute. Two souls united by their hunger for freedom and unbound by tradition, ready and poised to challenge the world awaiting them outside the shelter of wild woods and moonlit revelations. Standing, hands clasped tightly, Elias's affirmation filled the space. "We are not pawns in their game, Lyra. We hold the power to rewrite our own story. Together, we will change everything." And with that vow echoed against the depths of their souls, they raced headlong into the sparkling unknown, ready to reclaim their lives and love in a world that had sought to control their fates. For the Alpha King may have devised a wicked jest, but it had birthed something extraordinary, an unforeseen legacy of rebellion that swam in the currents of their shared heartbeat. As they reached for the horizon, hope lingered like a fire stoked, daring them to step into the light, but not before they allowed the night to lead them toward their destiny. The bonds of tradition, woven of power and hierarchy, now trembled. The tides began their shift, and beneath the embrace of the moon, a new legacy was born. In perfect synchrony, they charged onwards, igniting their existence with the knowledge that true power was not just found in the ability to shift, but in their capacity to love deeply and stand together against the world awaiting their arrival. Together, they danced under the stars, and the whispers of the wind carried on through the dark, echoing their names, a testament, perhaps, of the love that dared to breach the limitations set by fate, forging its exhilarating path into new realms of endless possibility. As the moon hung high above, casting its silvery glow on the waking world, Elias and Lyra plunged deeper into the fern-clad woods, the thrum of their hearts beating in unison with the rhythm of the earth around them. Momentarily free from the chains of expectation and ridicule, each step felt like an exhilarating leap into the unknown, a promise of transformation awaiting at every twist of the path. With every shift, every bound, Elias felt the wild within him awaken, a surge of primal energy coaxing him deeper into his own wolfish essence. It was as if the very ground they danced upon thrummed with magic, enabling them to rise beyond the limitations imposed by a world intent on binding them to their heritage. "So much more than just a joke," Lyra declared, her voice hitching with glee as she glided alongside him. The fluid grace of her movements, the untamed spirit in her eyes, made her the embodiment of freedom itself. The joy she exuded sparked something in him, a wild hope that perhaps they could carve their own path, rid themselves of the remnants of preordained fates. But laughter was fleeting in the dark, and a distant rustle broke through their moment. Elias froze for a split second, and instinct snatched the reins of his attention. He glanced sideways at Lyra, a muted concern underlying their shared exhilaration. "Did you hear that?" She halted, ears pricking, focus narrowing. "Something is stirring in the shadows, Elias. We shouldn't linger too long." Before he could respond, the underbrush rustled violently behind them, followed by a low growl that reverberated through the quiet night air. A chill slid down his spine as a brilliant silvery wolf stepped from the shadows, its gaze seeping into the very marrow of his bones.